What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. Unless it's your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking. Okay? That's the you problem, baby. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Right quick before I get started, I need all of the crystal people, the people who are familiar with crystals, to help me out with this one. I bought this crystal and I forgot what the name is, and Google image search has not been helpful. So if you know, please let me know. And also, those of you who saw the last video where I pumped them with a little bit of pet hemp oil, this is the one. It's by a company called Charlie and Buddy. It also has multivitamins. And Bella, y'all saw that she was definitely giving roach spray with Raid, fighting for her life, fighting against the hemp. But eventually she did go down. So it does work even on the toughest of little dogs. And Blue is back there snoring in his spot per usual. I didn't give him any today. He's just been fed. He's had a nice little time outside in the sun, honey. So he is due for a nap. They're not drugged up today. Today we are discussing the case of Ben, and I believe her name is pronounced Lynlee. I don't want to say that the whole video, so I'm going to call her Lynn. Last name Renick. And this is a pretty wild story, so I'm just going to get right into the facts, okay? In 2011, Ben reconnects with an old friend of his, Lynn, and right away the two of them hit it off. Now Lynn has a young son from a previous relationship, and she has not had much luck in love, neither has Ben. So for the two of them, they each see each other as a breath of fresh air. And things move pretty fast because not long after reconnecting, Lynn moves with her young son into Ben's home. And this home was built on his family's farm, which was located in Montgomery County, Missouri. It is not long before the two of them welcomed their first child together, and they decided at that point to go ahead and solidify their family unit by getting married. Now, one of the things that they bond over the most is shared tragedy. Both of them had lost their mothers, and sadly, Ben's father takes his own life shortly after they lose his mother, and this leaves the entire family farm in Ben's name. Now, Ben tries to make the most of a tragic situation and his inheritance. He converts the barn into a reptile breeding facility, specifically for snakes, called Renick's Reptiles. Ben breeds and sells very exotic designer snakes with unique color combinations and patterns that are very rare. Some of his snakes are priced as high as $100,000. And his business does extremely well because he's producing snakes that nobody's ever seen before. Throughout the years, he has a lot of the world's firsts. This business is his passion, and he is a very well-respected snake breeder. His facility is lined with containers filled with exotic pythons, anacondas, some of them weighing over 200 pounds. Now, while Ben has been discovering his own passions, Lynn has been exploring her own. She has gone to massage school and in 2016 opens up her very own spa. And that is where she tells police that she was on June 8th of 2017 when she received this phone call letting her know that her husband Ben had never shown up to pick up their children. This is very odd because he's never forgotten to pick up the children before. She tries to call him, no answer. So she leaves work, goes to pick up the children, and then of course takes them home. She goes out to the barn where she knows Ben spends the majority of his day working. She wants to know, how could he have forgotten to pick up their children? At 6:36 p.m. precisely, she walks into a horrifying discovery. 29-year-old Ben is definitely there inside of the barn, but it's pretty obvious why he had not picked up the children, and it's not because he forgot. Ben is lying in a pool of his own blood. Now, Lynn immediately assumes that it must have been one of the snakes, and one of them must be loose in there somewhere. He has between 3,000 and 4,000 snakes in this facility. She does not stick around to see a snake slide out on her. Instead, she leaves the barn and immediately calls Ben's brother. And the brother Sam comes over to the house. He calls 911 and tells them that, someone needs to come out right away because his brother has been attacked by one of his snakes. When the police arrive, they very quickly dispel this notion that Ben had been attacked by a snake. They find shell casings beneath his body, and they also see that he had been shot in the back several times and then once more in the back of the head. There were a total of 8 rounds, all from behind. The medical examiner determines that the first 2 shots would have very obviously been fatal. So to keep going 6 more, this is obviously something that was very personal. They also determined that this had to have happened within 2 hours of Ben's brother calling the police. Police first consider a robbery to be the motive because Ben's collection was worth over $1 million. However, when they find that no snakes are missing, every one of them is accounted for, this theory is dismissed. And when officers inform Lynn that her husband had been attacked but not by a snake, she immediately points the finger at her brother-in-law, Sam. She urges them to consider Sam as a potential suspect because apparently when their father passed, everything was left to Ben and Lynn. And Sam had demanded half of the inheritance, but Ben had refused. Behind this, the two of them had a huge blow up. And Lynn says that Sam said a lot of threatening and terrible things to Ben during their argument. And she just feels like he could have done this to his brother. Now, Sam is very cooperative with police. He does not dodge any of their questions. And he agrees that he was very hurt that his father had decided to leave the entire farm solely to his brother, but he denies being so upset by this that he would hurt him. He also tells them that he wasn't that upset still because at the time, he couldn't afford the farm anyway because living on a farm is very expensive. Realizing that he had let go of any ill feelings about inheriting something that he could not maintain. His reasoning, in addition to him coming off, is just very genuine and honest. His willingness to cooperate. Sam's alibi also checks out, and he is therefore cleared as a suspect. Lynn cannot think of anyone else who would want to harm her husband. And when asked about the state of their marriage, she says that they were happy. But a look into their social media accounts paints a slightly different picture. Ben had indicated that Lynn was cheating on him. And it was obvious that the two of them were having issues. Detectives go to her again and they ask her about having an affair. She admits right away to seeing someone outside of their marriage, but says her lover was on a trip with friends at the time, so he couldn't have possibly done this. And when they look into that, it actually checks out as true. This again brings them back to looking at Lynn as a possible suspect. They consider the most obvious motive for a spouse and take a look into the couple's finances to see if there was anything there. And they quickly find out the spa has been tanking and Miss Lynn here is behind thousands of dollars on her business loans. They also find out that Ben had been fronting a lot of the bills for her spa, and over time this had put a big strain on their marriage. Then investigators receive a phone call from the insurance agent that is handling Ben's life insurance policy. Once the insurance agent learns that Lynn is on the suspect list, they put a hold on this $1 million payout to her. The agent also drops a little hint to investigators telling them that she had called to cash in on that insurance policy within hours of Ben being ambushed. She had also begun the process already of selling the entire farm as well as Ben's reptile business. And when Sam learns of this, he immediately goes to court with her to try to stop her from selling his family business because it's been in his family for like 40 years now. Now, Lynn maintains that she has nothing to hide and she is guilty of nothing. She agrees to let investigators look through her phone where they find a text thread between her and a man by the name of Mike H. Now, according to her, Mike is just an ex-client of hers and he is an ex-boyfriend as well, but there was nothing there. But the fact that the two of them had talked consistently the day that Ben had been ambushed and haven't spoken since was really odd to investigators. They bring Mike H in for questioning and he claims that he and Lynn only spoke because the spa's manager needed stereo work done and that was like his line of business. Taking a second look at her call log, there is another number that is very repetitive. This number is not saved, but it is registered to a man by the name of Brandon Blackwell. Now, when they ask Lynn about Brandon, she admits to also also having an affair with him and sleeping with him just 3 days before her husband died. And she's like, wait, maybe it was him. Y'all should go around and check him out. But when they do, his alibi is solid as well. Then detectives are really thrown for a loop when just a couple days later, Lynn and Brandon go public with their relationship. Months later, she announces that she's pregnant with his child. And to add to all the drama, Brandon is actually married with 2 children at home with his wife. When Sam and Lynn finally have their day in court to battle it out over ownership or her right to sell the farm and the reptile business, Lynn wins against Sam and she lets it all go for $740,000. At this point, Brandon leaves his wife and their kids and moves with Lynn, her kids, and all her money to Columbia, Missouri. At this point, the investigators are sure that she was responsible for what happened to her husband, but they cannot prove it. Brandon and Lynn's romance is very short-lived. In 2019, she takes out a restraining order against him, and in January of 2020, he is arrested for violating that protective order. And while in jail, he asks to speak to investigators. He tells that Lynn had said to him just a week before Ben died that she had tried to take him out, but she had failed. The spa manager, Ashley, had actually helped her get her hands on some Percocet, which she had crushed up and put into his protein shake. But this had only made Ben sick. At that point, she had reached out to her ex-boyfriend, Mike H., and asked for his help. The whole stereo story completely made up. Mike is immediately arrested. It turns out that Lynn had led her ex-boyfriend, Mike, to believe that Ben was physically abusive and that she had feared for her life. Mike claims that he wanted to help protect her or at least assist her in protecting herself. He comes to the spa and brings her a gun just in case she needs to use it. He also tells police that at that point she had asked him to go along with her to the house to see Ben, and he didn't really want to go, but she told him that she was afraid because she was leaving him. She needed to go get her things, and she didn't want to go along because she was, of course, afraid that he would attack her. And so with that, he agrees to go along with her, just thinking he'll stand back and be the Julius to her Beyonce, her muscle. But when the two arrive to the house, she immediately goes toward his reptile facility. And then Mike sees that she has the gun out. He says that she tried to hand him the gun, but he had refused. He was not trying to take it. At this point, they are right outside of the facility, and Ben opens the door, and right away, as soon as he does, Lynn shot him. What I'm trying to figure out is, did he open the door with his back turned, Mr. Mike? But anyway, let me keep going. Mike says that as soon as the first shot was let off, he tried to skedaddle. He tried to get out of there. He ran toward his car, but he kept hearing shots being fired. And by the time he reaches his car, she is coming behind him full speed, yelling, "We got to get out of here. We have to go now." They have Ashley, the spa manager, brought in for questioning as well. And she refuses to talk until she is given an immunity deal. See, Jamie, that's how you do it. Because I still ain't forgot about that 25 years, sir. But I digress. Once she is granted immunity, soon as the ink dries on her deal, baby, she sits down and she tells officers that she'd agreed to help Lynn kill Ben because of the same reasons that Mike said. Because she was told of all of this abuse she had endured at the hands of her husband, and she wanted to help Lynn out of a terrible situation. In addition to getting her the pills, she had helped her locate Mike Humphrey. And while Lynn and Mike were at the farm, she had also helped to establish an alibi for Lynn by agreeing that during the time everything went down, Lynn was actually there at the spa. And she was also left Lynn's phone to send text messages and make phone calls that would make it look like, according to her phone records, she was at the spa. On January 16th of 2020, more than 2.5 years after Ben was ambushed, his wife Lynn is arrested at her home. Mike Humphrey goes on trial first in October of 21. And even though he claims that he was not a willing participant, he did not participate physically at all, he is convicted of murder in the first degree and is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, because they don't believe that. But because he agrees to help investigators locate the weapon and also agrees to testify against Lynn during her trial. His conviction is cut down to second degree, and parole is put back on the table for him. In December of 21, 33-year-old Lynn goes to trial, and she takes the stand on her own behalf and decides to testify. And she tells the jury that Mike had pulled the trigger, not her. But Mike and Ashley, the spa manager, both take the stand and testify that that was a lie. Ashley also testifies that she and Lynn had planned this whole thing out, that yes, they had attempted to recruit Mike to do their dirty work, but Mike wasn't trying to get his hands dirty. And so at that point, Lynn just decided she had to do what needed to be done and take matters into her own hands. And Ashley also admits to being the one who initially even suggested that Lynn cash in on her husband's life insurance policy in order to save the tanking spa. I'm just trying to figure out the fact that Ashley had them give her an immunity deal before she would even open her mouth, and then she opens up her mouth and is like, yeah, this was all my idea. I helped her. We planned that out together. It's crazy. Now, Rachel Hunt, who is another spa employee, testifies, but not before she also gets her immunity deal. And she says that she was also a part of these conversations about Ben, that they would be at the spa casually working, discussing how and when to end this man's life. And Rachel also says that Lynn had reached out to her the day of and had told her everything that had happened. And she also admitted that she was in love with a man by the name of Brandon Blackwell, and that she planned on running away with him and starting a whole new life, which she subsequently did. Ashley tells the courts that after everything happened, Lynn had actually come back to the spa and she had helped her clean herself, take a shower, get rid of the clothes. But she does admit that Lynn had showed a lot of remorse, that she had cried about it and said that this was a terrible mistake, the biggest mistake that she had ever made in her life. And I don't know if that had anything to do with her sentencing, because they do find her guilty of second-degree murder, and she is only sentenced to 16 years in prison. She is set to be released in 2038 at the age of 49. The fact that they were ready to carry Mike off to the gallows, child, and she got 16 years is crazy. Less than a month after her conviction, Lynn files a defamation lawsuit against Brandon Blackwell. Forget about all of Ashley and Rachel and Mike's testimony. Brandon had lied to the police, and these false statements had led her to be arrested for something she did not do. She is seeking punitive damages in excess of $25,000, as well as all of her legal fees. Y'all know she can't afford them. At the time of Lynn's sentencing in early 2022, her son Matthew was 14, and her daughter that she has with Ben is 10. Lynn's sister April is appointed their legal guardian, and according to her, they really have had trouble accepting the truth of what happened to their parents. Of course they would, they're like little kids, right? And she says that it's difficult coping with this because they still love their mother. The children have not visited her in prison at all, but they do speak with her from time to time via prison-allowed video calls. The whereabouts of the child that she has with Brandon Blackwell are not public knowledge or public information. I'm not really sure if she has any type of relationship with that child or if that child has a relationship with the siblings. Hopefully the kids are still, connected. Matthew and Emily, the two older children, they each received $500,000 each, as their father's life insurance policy is actually paid out to them. Now, of course, you can't just drop $500,000 on a 10 and a 14-year-old. So for the time being, the money is in a trust that they cannot touch until they turn 18. Lynn has got to feel like a nut because, girl, it wasn't even your idea. How you let your employees gas you up to take your husband out just so they can secure their jobs? Now you in jail and they got no money. She might still have the money she got from selling the property though, because I can't think of a reason why she would be denied that money, like legally. But I don't know. The Memphis City schools ain't teaching me nothing about legalities, okay? Hi, Pig. Pig wants to say hi. You want to say hi to the peoples? Girl, I told you about getting up and smelling my breath. You having these people think you smelling it because my breath stink, and it don't. It's the lip product she's sniffing. Don't get cute in the comments. Ain't that right, mommy? Is that right? Oh, you got your ears back. That's your little fight stance. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. You such a sweet girl. You hear that? The police coming for you, Bella. The jig is up. Hey, baby. I want to know what y'all thoughts are down below on this I said it every video, but I really want to know. Because do y'all think the 16 years was fair, all things considered? I don't. Do y'all feel like her having remorse after the fact and her being peer pressured to do so, like to carry this out? Do y'all think that should have weighed in on her sentencing? Let me know your thoughts. Like the video before you leave. Please subscribe if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Bella, say peace. Oh, she just lay her little head down. Oh my goodness. My sweet girl. And Blue, nope, that's the wrong side. And sadly, Ben's mother takes her life shortly after they lose. No, she was, child. She was already gone. And sadly, Ben's father takes his own life after they lose his mother. Like, okay, own life. Okay, no. Get it together. Get it together. Reptile breeding. Okay, a reptile. Is a snake a reptile? It is, right? Hey Siri, is a snake a reptile?
Snakes are reptiles, a group that also includes lizards, crocodiles, and turtles.
I ain't asked about all of them. I said snakes. Where was I? Called Renick's Reptiles. The fact that I just asked was a snake a reptile and the name of the business was Renick Reptiles, like, child, I ain't got no time. The way he's snoring and percolating and gyrating in the background. Like, what's going on in there? Not the medical determinant. Ugh. When their father passed, literally everything was left to Sam. No, it wasn't. It was left to Ben girl. Realizing that he wasn't harboring any ill feeling for, and over time, this had put a sister in a or at least assist in. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Once she is granted immunity, she sits down. She is seeking punitive damages of $25,000. What did I even just say? She is not speaking. The whereabouts that she has with what? Girl. Okay. Girl.